We're coming to the end game. Are you prepared? You need to listen to this interview, and you need to find out more now. Okay, we are coming to the end game of this financial system. We've been through many years of a credit expansion. The first contraction was in 2008. That's when we entered the start of this hurricane of a storm. And we've been going through the eye, and now we're going to be going through the next phase of this situation. I want you to listen to an interview, a very short excerpt from an interview that I taped off of an economist called Julian Brigadin. And I took this interview off of Zero Hedge. You can go to Zero Hedge for the rest of the interview. Zero Hedge is a very good, reputable site for very good information on what's really happening in the economy. I recommend them very much. So now let's. You have to understand the background for this interview. I've been talking for a long time about how the real end game and the real problem we're going to have and the crisis that we're going to have with the dollar is coming not into weakness but into strength. And that strength is starting to boil up now, finally, after all these years of weakness we had from 2008 until now. We've had weakness. And the Fed has enjoyed the luxury of this weakness and being able to use their accommodative monetary policy to balance the system in a state of neither a recovery but neither a depression either, sort of a nowheresville. But now we finally hit the point of no return where the markets have turned, and it was last July. The strength started last July, and the strength has only been picking up stronger and stronger. It's why we've had this large increase in the stock market as of recently. So, now that you understand the backdrop of what I'm trying to say, and what I'm trying to say is that when the oil price starts to go up, and it evidently will, because the cheap oil that's coming out of the Permian Basin will not last forever. When the oil price starts to go up, we're going to see the destruction of the dollar. And it's going to be because of strength in the economy that's going to destroy the dollar. And we're going to go into a hyperinflation. Now, it's time to listen to this interview by Julian Brigadin. And after it's over, I will go through a small commentary. Thank you very much, and listen to this.
Slide 15.
Let me just ask a question there, because we've had quite a few guests express a view that Europe is in really serious trouble. Of course, the Brexit Article 50 trigger occurred this week. A lot of guests have said that they think it's the beginning of the end, that soon several other countries will exit Europe, the economy will fall apart, they're in big trouble. Obviously, you're expecting European growth to accelerate. So does that imply a different view about European exit risk contagion, or how do you see this?
Structurally, no, but I do think it would be, one of the things that I often disagree with friends and peers of mine is whenever you get weak data, you have a lot of people that sort of run around and say, oh my goodness, look, ISM is going to drop below 46, the whole experiment has failed, the world is going to blow up, the equity market's going to implode. My base case has always been that you don't get to the Armageddon scenario with weak data. You actually get to the Armageddon scenario when you actually get strong data. Because in weak data, ISM dropping through 46, European growth failing to materialize, inflation sitting on the lows of 2014, 2015, you can get vast swathes of accommodative central bank policy. They can print, they can do all the other distortive measurements and steps that they've taken, and they can essentially inflate the market. They can do what the Japanese did. They can buy equities. They can do whatever they want, Eric. That's never the end game. You can get a wobble in that scenario, but it's not the end game. The end game for markets, the most dangerous, toxic scenario for markets comes when you've got vastly inflated prices and central banks actually need to hike. So imagine a scenario later this year where, let's say, look, obviously because the French election could be a heart attack, but let's say we have continued deterioration in the Italian economy, which is our base case, but everywhere else in Europe is booming, and inflation pressures are coming through. And the ECB, whether Draghi likes it or not, he is facing a full revolt with everyone in Northern Europe, including the French, because the French economy looks to us like it's absolutely, barring, as I said, Marine Le Pen, about to explode in terms of growth. And Europe's second largest economy growing will have a material impact. But let's say, for instance, that that's what happened. Draghi is actually forced to hike. Then in a bizarre way, because he's created such a bubble in the bond market, as that thing blows, he's actually going to be responsible for sinking Italy. Because if the equity markets go south as that bond market blows, he can't come in with more QE because he has ingrained inflation and they have a singular mandate. So the end game doesn't occur via weakness, it actually occurs via strength.
And that's actually the exact scenario that I've predicted for years, is when we really get to the end game is when you have an inflationary backdrop and suddenly the central bankers' hands are tied and they cannot solve everything just by conjuring more money out of thin air. And so you think...
Okay, here's what's going to happen in the next 18 months. We are going to go head first into a crisis like you've never seen before. But first it's going to start with good things. The economy picking up, more jobs, and a real recovery for a change. Then you're going to see consumer inflation pick up like you've never seen it pick up before. And the banks will be doing really good, lending money out through the power of fractional reserve banking and creating more cash, and the cash will be flowing into the system. Everything's going to pick up. That's when you're going to see inflation take off like a rocket. The Fed's not going to be able to do anything to stop it, and we're going to head first into a crack up boom. This is going to be the worst thing that you've ever experienced once it really takes hold, because it's going to destroy, first off, it's going to destroy all savers who have not got their money out of paper assets. And it's going to destroy all people who are on a fixed income. Now, the people who have jobs, their jobs are going to increase wages, but it's not going to keep up with the cost of living or the cost of inflation. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a poorness and hardship, something similar to the Great Depression. But I do not believe that the system is going to shut down, and I do not believe it's going to become a Mad Max world. I believe that you can live through this, you can actually prosper through this, and I believe that the secret to prospering through it is to prepare now and to start to understand that this is coming, it's unavoidable, and it's going to happen in the next 18 months. So thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next article.